Good morning. Good morning, everybody, both here in the fellowship hall and to our friends who are online over Zoom. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. I will start by apologizing because your order of service says that Reverend Kathleen should be standing here right now, and clearly I am not Reverend Kathleen. Um, she was not able to come in this morning, so we're sorry she's not with us today, but I am happy to be here and to be doing the welcome and the announcements. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been meeting for over 200 years at this point. We are excited here in our home up on Clapboard Ridge Road and with our online capabilities, but we also respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. Whether this is your first Sunday with us, your 100th or your 1000th, we are glad that you are here because we are stronger together and stronger because you are with us. I'll also make a note that if you have not already silenced any phones or electronic devices you have with you, and I'm realizing I have not pushed my little button either, so I'm going to do that. Now is a great time to silence it. Today's service is our RE Sunday in celebration of religious education. Our Director of Religious Education, the Reverend Sierra Marie Gerfeo, is going to lead a lot of the service, but the RE ministry team is also involved in the service as well, and we are looking forward to that. In terms of announcements for today, I have one special announcement that's not in the order of service, I don't believe, and that is that Gary Mummert, on behalf of the Danbury chapter of the NAACP, would like to extend a welcome to the Juneteenth celebration that's going to take place on Saturday, June 17th on the Western Connecticut State University campus between noon and 5 p.m. And he is also setting up an information table out in our lobby today. And there's a possibility, am I right, Gary, that the president of the Danbury NAACP chapter, Glenda Armstrong, could be joining us this morning. So we welcome all of you to stick your head out into the lobby and say hello and find out what you can do with that local chapter. They'd love to have more of our engagement from UU Danbury. The other important announcements, there's a lot going on today, is that our annual meeting is right after the service this morning. The annual meeting of the UU Congregation of Danbury should be starting around 11:30 a.m. We invite all members and friends to stay and participate in that meeting. And this afternoon, there's also a Music at the Ridge performance. So again, this is a busy, busy place. You could make a whole day of it with us at UU Danbury today. And we hope that you'll consider that. Oh, yes. Sorry. See, another thing I forgot is that when the service ends, but before the annual meeting, we're going to take a little stroll down to the door outside our lower level because there's a little free library that's been set up, and we want to dedicate the little free library. And I believe that was Melody Levy's brainchild. So we're excited to have that and hope that you'll celebrate that with us. All right. I think those are all my announcements for this morning. And so at this point, I welcome everyone to take a moment to greet each other. If you're here in the fellowship hall, turn to someone, say hello. If you're online, type where you're connecting from in the chat. Right. So we will have plenty of time to talk today. It's hard to get control of the group once this has started. Ring the bell. I might need to. Oh. Good idea. All right. Thank you for coming back together. I invite you to stand as you are able, to rise in body or spirit, and join us in our hymn of welcome, which is number 380. There are hymnals here in the hall, and the words will appear on the screen as well.
Rejoice in love we know and share, in love and beauty everywhere. Rejoice in truth that makes us free, and in the good that never shall be.
And now we'll have our chalice lighting affirmation. I'm going to invite Melody Levy to come up and light the chalice for us. As many of you know, Melody is a past president of this congregation. She has given of herself in so many ways. I could probably stand here for 5 minutes and tell you all the things that Melody's done over the years. But we are grateful that she is here this morning. And like I said, we will celebrate that little library after the service today. So please join me in the words on the screen or in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life.
Good morning. I'm going to share our intergenerational story shortly, but why don't you join me in the Unison Children's Affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. All right, so I agreed to do the story this morning, and then I read the words. So it's going to be fun to get through this, but I hope you enjoy it. It is called Prinderella and the Cince. Taunts upon a whime, there was a gritty little pearl named Prinderella. She lived with her Micked Wepstother and her 2 sisty uglers. Now, Prinderella was very unhappy because she had to flub the scores, wean the clindos, and pine the shots and shans. One day, the Ping issued a proclamation which stated that all of the eligible earls in the Pingdom were to attend a ball. It was to be a Drancy Fest ball. The 2 sisty uglers were very happy because they had Drancy Fesses, but Prinderella was more unhappy than ever because she didn't have a Drancy Fess. All she had was a Verdi Dag. So she cat down and scried. But who should suddenly appear but her merry Fodgother, who said, Prinderella, why do you weep? Because I want to go to the ball, but all I have to wear is a Verdi Dag. Oh, Prinderella, you gal show. And in the isling of a twink, she changed into the Verdi Dag, from the Verdi Dag into a Drancy Fess, a Crumpkin into a Parage, and provided 6 white Hansing horses. But before Prinderella could go, she said, remember, you must be home by the moke of Stridnight. So Prinderella went and pranced all night with the Cince. But all of a sudden, it was the moke of Stridnight, and Prinderella was in a panic. She fled down the Stalus Peps and onto the Statum Pep. She slopped her dripper. She slopped her dripper. Now, wasn't that a shirty dame? The next day, the Ping issued another proclamation, which stated that all of the eligible earls in the Pingdom were to sly on the tripper, but it fidn't dit. So Prinderella said, please, may I sly on the tripper? And it fid it. You know the rest of the story. Prinderella and the Cince were married that very dame say, and they hived lappily
after Adam.
Well done. Thank you, Heather. In your order of service, this time is marked as a celebration, but we're going to postpone this part of our celebration this morning because it was a surprise for Reverend Kathleen, as today was meant to be her second to last Sunday with the congregation. So our kids had created a little gift for her, and we were going to celebrate her time with us. We'll wait until her going away party next week instead. Instead, let's turn our hearts to a time of community sharing, a time when we can bring in those joys that are too great not to be shared, and those sorrows that are too heavy not to lift in community. We'll begin with the silent sharing for those of you who are not ready to speak your joy or your sorrow. There are some stones on the table, and you can come up and put a stone in the bowl where it. Again, with gratitude for helpers. So much gratitude for helpers. Let's sing our hymn number 402, From You I Receive, to You I Give.
You I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Our second celebration of the morning is in a video slideshow format. I've learned that traditionally on this Sunday every year in the past, the kids have shared about the things that they've been learning together during the year. But this year, most of our kids were doing sexuality and relational education, and I promised that even if they were available to be here, I wouldn't ask them to share about what they'd been learning. In fact, I promised not to take pictures of them in their Our Whole Lives groups either. But amazingly, I still had a fair number of other pictures from the year, including from our intergenerational activities. And even we just added in a few from yesterday from the Bethel Pride celebration. They are full of joy. So I wanted to share those pictures with you. And without further ado, let's run the slideshow. few other from Pride that we just added.
Well, as part of our celebration, as we do every week, we will gratefully receive an offering to sustain this congregation and all of the good work and the people and the facilities and everything involved with making UU Danbury a reality. There are a variety of ways to give. If you are online, a link will appear in the chat box. There is the QR code on the screen. We happily accept checks in the old-fashioned style mail to 24 Clapboard Ridge, and the plate will pass here in the fellowship hall. If this is your first time joining us today, please don't feel obligated to give. Your presence is your gift to us, but our offering will be gratefully received now.
All is well. All is well. I'm going to come down here actually because we have a part 3 of our celebration today, and that is we have had an amazing year of people putting their gifts, their energy, their time into our children and youth ministry. And I want to invite Heather, our religious education ministry team chair, to come up and help give some gifts to these people. Some of them are not able to be here today, especially our young adult volunteers, because they are at a young adult conference, I believe, this morning. But I would like to invite up all of our Whole Lives facilitators, those who are doing sexuality education. Come on up, Lisa. Do we have anybody else? Jackie and David, Sequoia, and Julie all helped with that. Thank you very much, Lisa, for your time this year. And we also have our middle school, our middle school youth group advisor, our first ever middle school youth group this year. Christy is not here today, but we do want to thank Christy for her work on that group. And then as well, we have our high school youth group advisors. So Chris is here. Where did Annie go? Annie's here. Jim is not here. Heather is one of our youth group advisors as well. So please, each of you come up and receive a gift on behalf of the congregation. Yay! And other religious education ministry team members. We have Gina and Ann. Where is Ann? Ann, come up and get a book. Come up and get a book. We want to thank you too. So I made it a little tradition last year that we would be giving a meditation manual each year to our volunteers in the children and youth ministry. And I was going to get on the schedule of doing the year, the book for the year, but there were so many from before that I really liked that I haven't caught up yet. So we will keep on giving out some of my favorites for now. This one's called Breaking and Blessing by Sean Dennison Parker. And I just want to give us a chance to say thank you to these people. So please, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Today's message is not a lesson. I haven't figured out something that you haven't or can't or won't if I don't tell you. The message is simply a way of holding a particular kind of space for our human hearts. Last summer, when the first photos from NASA's Webb telescope were released, I recall that I reminded you that the atoms in your body, Sam's nodding, she remembers, she was paying attention, that the atoms of your body were made in stars that long ago exploded, sending their elements out into the fathoms. And then they eventually became you. I said, you are literally made of stardust. And then I read to you words from the Stardust Blessing. This blessing was taught to me by colleagues as a practice for LGBTQIA plus pride. And I offered it at this year's congregation's Pride booth yesterday in Bethel. I used biodegradable glitter as if it was holy oil and blessed those who came to be blessed with words that included the following. You are stardust, born of the infinite creativity of the universe. We rejoice and give thanks that you are shining your light in this world. So I want to invite us to offer one another that blessing now, in a minute anyway, when I say go, not yet, to give and receive. This will involve turning to someone and taking turns repeating those words after me, one of you, then the other. And for people at home, you might turn to someone near you or look in a mirror or look at a picture or just allow the words of the blessing to fall on you like spilled glitter, which, by the way, sticks to everything. For those of you in the fellowship hall, you may also need to move to find someone to pair up with, and that's just fine. I'll give you a minute. This is a service designed with all generations in mind, even as I knew we wouldn't have many kids present based on our RSVPs. And we'll go ahead and celebrate being embodied by not staying still the whole time. And as with all things, any part of this is optional. The point is to be in a space of giving and receiving a reminder of our sacred stardust nature. But if you can and are willing, go ahead and find someone now with whom you can take turns giving and receiving a blessing, and choose someone to give the blessing first. Okay, go. Wait a minute now. You're going to repeat after me. This is a really funny experiment. You're going to repeat after me. Okay. So are you ready? Can you hear me? Okay. First to give the blessing. First person to give the blessing. Repeat after me. You are made of stardust, born of the infinite creativity of the universe. We rejoice and give thanks that you are shining your light in this world. Okay, second to speak. Repeat after me. You are made of stardust, born of the infinite creativity of the universe. We rejoice and give thanks that you are shining your light in this world. Okay, now if you've moved, you might choose to return now to your seats. And I'm going to ask Heather, will you start the rocks passing? Okay, I'm going to start also. Heather's going to help me out here. She's going to start passing around a basket of rocks. And each of you will take one. I'll tell you why in a little bit. It's just a memento to remember some things with. Just hold on to it for now. Those of you at home, if you have a rock nearby, you go ahead and grab it. Remembering our sacred, mysterious, beautiful stardust nature. Remembering the stardust nature of those we are with. Remembering this not just once last year, but again, multiple times over multiple years is valuable, not only for those of us in the LGBTQIA plus community, because of the many ways in society, and especially in some religious congregations, that we in particular may receive the life diminishing messages that we are far from sacred, not a beautiful expression of the creative cosmos, but a mistake or a problem. But it is valuable for all of us to be reminded of our stardust nature, because we live in a world that would have us believe that we are as good as what we own, and as good as what we can achieve, as good as the grades we get, or the sports we play, or how we did at work this week. And you, beloved, you are not that. You are something far more wild, connected, unstoppable, life-affirming, even more miraculous than that. You are stardust born from the creativity of the cosmos. You are nothing short of incredible. And so is the person for whom you have just offered the blessing. When we hold a space that helps us remember that we are connected and worthy and beautiful, and that others around us are too, it's a form of religious education. Speaking about religious education broadly, which means all the curricula of the congregation, the explicit curricula like the Our Whole Lives Lifespan Sexuality Education series for children and adults, some of which we ran this year, the implicit curriculum, all that we do together and how we do it and what it teaches us, and the null curricula, everything we don't do and the things we don't say, which also teaches us. Speaking of religious education broadly like that, Unitarian Universalist theologian, the Reverend Rebecca Parker, talks about religious education as humanization in the context of dehumanizing forces. Let me say that again. Religious education is humanization in the context of dehumanizing forces. Even a stone like the one you may now be holding in your hand is shaped by its environment, formed by the minerals the earth offers it in its location, influenced by the passing of waters and wind, the forces all around it. Even this stone is not self-made. We live in late-stage finance-driven capitalism under the legacy of slavery on which the economy of this country was built, and all the mutually reinforcing oppressions of a society under that kind of legacy. The forces around us are dehumanizing. And so we choose together the work of humanization, the work of remembering fragmented selves as whole and holy, to borrow some words from Universalist Carlton Pearson. It's the work of reconnecting our alienated selves to humanity, the work of reconnecting our alienated selves to the earth and all of its creatures, the work of disrupting ideologies of hierarchy and domination that nurture our alienation. We choose this community work as counter forces in our own shaping. When we met in March as a community to talk about the future of our children and youth ministries, this is one of the things that families talked about as ministry they need and benefit from in their participation in this community. They talked about an ever-increasing baseline of anxieties and stresses and loneliness. They talked about financial woes in a world that demands that each person, each family fend for themselves. They imagined more connected communities, more support and mutual care. And they said things like, the Fairfield County, Westchester, New York metro area is like the LA freeway of life with all the pressure to go, go, go. And kids take that on. Unitarian Universalism provides a counter value, a message of be yourself, and we will support you. You can figure out what is important to you, and you'll find a way. This value is free from demands on kids to do, to produce, to perform. And so it is humanization in the context of dehumanizing forces. Now, I want to ask you a question. Just a moment ago, we thanked our volunteers who have contributed most directly this year to our ministries for children and youth. For the past several weeks, I've waited for your responses in a survey I have published in the weekly news, a survey about how you might contribute to those ministries directly or less directly in the 2023-2024 church year. What is it exactly that we ask our volunteers to do? This isn't a rhetorical question. I'm actually asking you, what kinds of activities were we just thanking our volunteers for? What kinds of activities? Leading group discussions. Facilitating our whole lives.
Being themselves with other generations.
Being themselves with other generations. Making connections. Having fun. Showing up. Leading just one event. Go ahead. Making coffee. That's true. For the adults, we make the coffee. What do you got, Jackie? Listening to and hearing our young people.
Chaperoning field trips and different events.
Chaperoning field trips and events.
Modeling our best selves.
Modeling our best selves.
Sleeping overnight in the cottage.
Sleeping overnight in the cottage, says Heather, who made her husband do it twice this year. I want to emphasize that we are not asking for experts. Religious education is humanization in the context of a dehumanizing world. None of us are experts in the work of humanization in a dehumanizing context. Some of you who are teachers professionally might be familiar with the work of Brazilian educator and philosopher Paulo Freire. I can't get his name quite right ever, but I'm just going to go with it. Or you might have at least heard of one of his works, such as the book, The Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Paulo Freire argued in that book that our standard and default model of education is banking education, which mirrors our oppressive, dehumanizing society. Banking education depends on a hierarchy. Teachers teach and students learn. Teachers own the knowledge and students receive this knowledge as deposits. That's where the word banking comes from. Teachers think and students are thought about. Teachers choose the program content and students adapt to that content. Teachers are the subjects and students the objects. Freire writes, however, and I quote, "Authentic liberation, the process of humanization, is not another deposit to be made in men. Liberation is a praxis, the action and reflection of people upon their world in order to transform it." End quote. Freire's alternative to banking education is what he calls problem-posing education, which he talks about as processes of humanization. These processes seek to resolve the student-teacher contradiction and introduce mutuality. Quote, "No one teaches another, nor is anyone self-taught. People teach each other, mediated by the world, by the cognizable objects which in banking education are owned by the teacher." End quote. He says in these mutual relationships, there is trust founded on love, humility, faith, and dialogue. He writes that we confuse freedom with the maintenance of the status quo, and quote, "Whereas banking education anesthetizes and inhibits creative power, problem-posing education involves a constant unveiling of reality that strives for the emergence of consciousness and critical intervention in reality." End quote. But to summarize, this is work done by the whole community learning together. Now, I've just gone into some heavy philosophical material, so let me go at it in another way. Let's go back to the story Reverend Kathleen chose for us this morning, Prenderella and the Synths. It was actually so fitting today that Reverend Kathleen didn't get to read the story herself, because everybody in the room was encountering the story for the first time. It was as if there was a veil over the story for all of us, like the veil Paulo Freire says exists over reality, such that we need relationships in which we can work together to unveil it so that we can understand it, grapple with it. Education that is humanizing is really about relationship. No one owns the key, but we're willing to work together in the process of discovery. When I ask for people to volunteer, what I'm not asking is that they bring a moral of the story, a lesson to communicate. Instead, I'm asking that they come and build relationships in which we can discover together. That they bring their willingness to engage questions with others, even with material like our whole lives, where we ask volunteers to resource the learning that is done together so heavily. And it's with this that I will close this out today. Some of you may be familiar with the musical duo known as the Banksons. A couple years ago, we ran a program on pregnancy loss using an extended music and storytelling video by the Banksons. And one of those singers, Abigail Bankson, said the following thing the other day to Adrienne Marie Brown on the How to Survive the End of the World podcast episode titled "Witch School Song Spells." Abigail Benson talked about the way that all seasons are occurring at once if we look at the whole world, which means that time isn't as linear as we think, that brokenness and healing are happening at the same time. She said, quote, "We can sit with the knowing, even as we are faced with extraordinary pain and destruction, that the intact nature of the world remains at every moment, and so does the intact nature of ourselves. It cannot be shattered, and there is a great shattering taking place at all times. All things are breaking and can never be broken. I feel like when we are singing a song in praise of what is, we call into being the intact world, the intact nature of the world, the intact nature of each other that is always there, waiting to be sung to. That doesn't mean a denial of grief. It's the opposite. It means singing the song of grief, singing the song of heartbreak that makes things want to jump up and live." End quote. So may that be the work we do together in community, even across the generations. No experts, no owners of knowledge, and no receivers of knowledge deposits. Just people willing to join in song together and be changed by the songs that arise from among us. To experience humanization through community song. So may it be, and may it be so.
I have a sneaky little surprise celebration number 4 or 3, I guess, for today. Anya, can you help Chris with something? He's over there. Oh, Anya's going to help you. I am this year's chair of the REMT, along with Anne and Gina. And on behalf of our team and all the families that are part of our religious education program, we want to thank Sierra Marie for an amazing year. And I just have to say, too, yesterday, if you could have seen Reverend Sierra Marie bestowing blessings on everyone that came up to our booth, you would be so warmed. It was amazing, and I think it just meant so much to everyone who was in attendance. So I feel really grateful to have been able to witness that. So you all can come on in. So we have just a little something. If anyone follows Sierra Marie on Facebook, no. You will remember she made a comment about her hanging plants this year. And so this thing weighs about 1 million pounds. So I'm a little nervous to have you place this on your porch, but maybe on the ground somewhere. Anyway, just a little token and something to help you think of us over your summer when we're not all together and inspire you for next year. So I think a round of this or applause for our amazing Now we'll carry on.
Where are we in the order of service now? Oh, we're extinguishing the chalice. Go ahead.
You've got the mic. You can decide. But we think we're going to extinguish the chalice now. So again, the words are in your order of service. They're also on the screen. Please join me. Love. Oh, sorry, I'm doing the morning. Wow, I'm back at the beginning. Let's go to this instead. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.
And let's join in our final hymn, which is what number? I don't have the right number.
317.
317. Great.
Of life trees of care. Let us be a house of welcome, living stone upon living stone, gladly showing all our neighbors we are not alone.
It turns out I forgot you would need to see the music a little bit for that one. Thank you for singing it anyway. May you leave this time together changed. May you share that feeling of transformation wherever you go. And may transformation spread into every word, deed, thought, and interaction until we are all changed, transformed, and transforming together, becoming a more just world. From Emily Richards. So may it. Join me down the path for a dedication of our little library.
Next time, tell me.